the News Channel 5 network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Barris coming to you on this Thursday, and we have a good show on tap. Several stories happening, especially here in Metro Davidson County, with regard to spending money and law enforcement. A lot to talk about this morning. First and foremost, we're probably going to zero in on the proposed property tax increase and much of what the council's been talking about. We've had different opinions on this program, talking about the need for 32% property tax increase. There's others out there that say there has to be a better way to do that, and one of them is joining us right off the top of the show. As we promised, we want to get as many sides on this as we can, and Councilman Steve Glover is joining us live via Zoom. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I'm in my home. I'm in my home studio.
Listen.
No, I'm at my office.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you are good at this. We've had various guests on this, and oftentimes, maybe it's a little off center or it's washed out with the lighting. You look professionally lit. It looks great.
Look, I'm having to work with stuff that's really not here, so I got to have the light.
Well, you look good. And listen, we are doing this on the Plus as well as streaming live on Facebook right now. So questions or comments for you, Steve. And Steve, you're someone who has a different perspective. We've heard from several individuals, the mayor, of course, first and foremost, talking about how the city of Nashville needs that 32% property tax increase. You guys have had some very long city council meetings, and you continue to fight the fight, saying that there's a way to do this without such a large increase. Tell me what you're suggesting now, what you think might work.
Well, what I suggested last Saturday was a 10% property tax increase and a wheel tax that would make up some of the difference, because that will kind of spread things across everybody. There's almost 700,000 vehicles in Davidson County. We don't have that many homes, and for every 10% that I could lower the property tax, it actually gives you buying power on a house of $10,000. Well, now, because I battled back and forth with our finance department and with the various folks downtown, it's ended up being 21. Now, I still disagree with them because you have the municipal liquidity fund that I think we could borrow and we could utilize and pay that back over a 36-month period. Now, normally, Nick, I would tell you, never borrow money.
Yeah.
But the only time you really should be using your line of credit is when you hit a real tough time. But our problem was we used our money, our savings account, when things were booming. So, that should not be the citizens' fault. That should be the government's fault, and we should tighten things up.
You were talking about this, months ago, about how we need to get the finances in place. No one saw the disasters coming that have at this point. And so now we're saddled with this situation where, there's a real financial crisis. Steve, do you think, you acknowledge that the pickle we're in right now is something where something will have to be done that likely will involve some form of a property tax increase, though I know many of the constituents out there say now is not the time for something like this to happen. But kind of frame that up for me on what you acknowledge has to be done to keep the city afloat.
Well, the letter came out from the comptroller Monday in order to maintain our credit rating for our bonds. We've got to cut the cost. Actually, he didn't say cut the cost. He actually endorsed the mayor's budget, which, that's not true, but it looked that way. I think we need to be cutting costs. Unfortunately, and this kills me because actually it was about 5 years ago I started warning us that we would be in this kind of situation if we didn't start cutting the cost. But we didn't. We just kept on and kept on and kept on spending. And now, we because of the pandemic, because of everything else that's happened, that's why I was trying to aim for about a 10% property tax increase. And as I said, unfortunately, they're saying, no, we can't use this tool or that tool. I disagree. I'll fight it next week, which is what I always do. Because I've been looking at this legally. I'm not an attorney, but I think there's other options. The sad part is 32% introduce me to somebody who says 32% doesn't bother me, and I'll introduce you to somebody who doesn't live in Nashville.
Yeah, I think most people certainly don't like the idea. I think some understand something needs to be done. Steve, talk, if you would, just about some of the things you were discussing years ago leading up to now. When you say cut, what types of things did you think could have been steps taken to bring us savings in that way?
Well, we could have done a lot of things several years ago. We could have quit spending money on stupid things.
Like what? Like what? Give us some examples, just the types of things that you're saying, we shouldn't have spent there, we could have saved there.
Yeah. All right, let me give you one example. $18 million for the bridge to nowhere. Now, it ended up getting changed, but they didn't take the $18 million out. And there were some revisions to it, but we just kept adding and adding and adding. We would take the capital improvement budget. If it was in that, we'd move our capital spending. And what's happened over a period of time is our debt service has increased so drastically. A lot of folks think that the Gaylord, the Bridgestone, and the Amazon deal, that's what got us here. That's not what got us here. What got us here was that debt load that continued to rise. When I really started screaming about the fact that we were in trouble was when Mayor Berry at the time promised a 2%, then a 3%, and a 3% for our employees, which I think is the right thing to do. The problem was nobody was forecasting out what the revenue was going to look like and what the expenditures were going to look like. And I was. And I went, wait a minute, how do we afford this? Unless we're going to do a tax increase or going to do this or do that, the numbers don't work. And so that was it. We kept promising things that we couldn't pay for. We kept doing things that we couldn't pay for. And eventually what's happened is, and the sad part is we made it on the backs of our employees here in the city. And now today it's on the back of the taxpayers. And that's wrong in so many ways. It's not funny.
It's the story of politicians in general, promising things they can't pay for. It happens. They like to say it. It sounds good. But then, what about when the rubber meets the road? What do you believe then as we move forward? And Steve, by the way, the final vote for this property tax increase, is that mid-June? Is that coming up? Is that next week or the week after?
No, I think our finance chair would like to be in next week. I think it needs to be the week after because, frankly, I think all ideas are coming out right now. I think the amendments will be coming out either Friday or Monday. And there's going to be a lot of information flowing over that 72-hour period. And so, therefore, I think it would be very wise for us to take one more week. As long as we pass the budget before June 30th at 11:59 p.m., then we've met our obligation under the state constitution and our own charter. So, right now is not the time to rush to an answer. Right now is the time to be methodical on how we approach it. Now, is mine the right answer? I don't know that. The council will take a look and we'll determine, where that is. And if I go down, that's fine. But, if I'm going down, the tax rate needs to be going down. And we need to make sure everything balances. That way we match up to what the comptroller is looking for. But, we have a long way to go, and I don't think we're going to be ready by Tuesday. And if people keep pushing for it, well, I think that's a dangerous move.
Gotcha. Let's take a phone call or two for you, if that's okay, Steve. And we've got John that called in first here. And John, good morning. Do you have a question or comment for Councilman Glover?
Yes, good morning. We are in we're hurting. We seriously in a situation where food prices gone up and everything you look at is practically going up. Service on your car, the taxes and stuff is hitting us like mad, and yet still they want to go in and hitting you for property taxes. Our property taxes are high enough. We barely making it, I don't know why the legislator won't go and pass that bill for we can't get some money. For we can help survive, live off of.
He's talking about another stimulus check that may be in the works. Now, I think John there is voicing the opinion of an awful lot of people about these hard times. What do you fear will happen? I mean, obviously there's going to be some kind of property tax increase, and there's a chance it's going to be that 32%. You know, maybe not, but if it is, what will happen once that passes? What do you think will happen? You know, what's the fallout after that if that occurs?
All right, so save this document right now, Nick.
All right.
If it happens, what's going to occur is people will start moving to, and we've already started doing that, but the people will continue moving to the outskirts, to the Wilson, to the Williamson, to the Sumners, et cetera, because the average property tax of every county that touches us in Davidson is $3.38. We talk about we have an exceptionally low tax rate. We really don't. If we move it up $1, which is 32%, or under Councilman Mendez's 106, almost 107, which is like 34%, if we do that, what will happen are the folks who can sell and move, they're going to do that. So you're going to see an exodus start happening. You're going to see home sales start diving. You're going to see the economy actually start hurting. Every time we raise taxes, what we're doing is taking money out of the economy and putting it into the government's pocket, and the government stinks at managing money. And so I don't know why the government seems to think that the only way we fix ourselves is to increase taxes. We need to cut our expenses and look at every aspect of this prior to even thinking about raising taxes. But we're where we are right now. A 10% property tax increase would be, it'd be hurtful, but it might be bearable for a lot of folks. A 32%, you watch the exodus. And here's what I'm telling you right now, Nick, is if this goes through, watch it in a few years. People will say, bye-bye, Nashville. And everything that we have here, we're killing the golden goose. Everything we have here, we're looking at completely imploding and destroying it.
Wow. All right, Steve, stay right where you are. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got more phone calls for you, more of our conversation with Councilman Steve Glover right after this. Stay with us.